grandpa and my sister. So we were all doing our own wardrobe and continuity, and I was like, I don't really know how to do this. And then yeah, they were making us work through lunch, and they brought in some bread, and it had maggots, and then and it was meat, and it had fur. I was like, I'm a vegetarian. I'm just putting on like bread and Coca-Cola.
That is more disturbing than what they just watched.
God.
I don't actually know exactly what my SAG card job was, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it actually might have been my episode of Medium that I was on. I was on an episode of Medium when I was younger, and I didn't get to work with Patricia or meet her, but I was on an episode, and I think that's where
I was a huge Medium fan, so I probably know.
Yes.
Who did you play?
I played a little girl who was being, her mother was trying to murder her.
Why? Why do all the mothers want to murder you
all the time?
Think about it. Why are you drawing this into
Say
your
about
life?
me.
That's amazing. Yeah, you've kind of been typecast, I guess.
Yeah, what's like I've shaved my head 3 times now. Mothers want to murder me. Like I don't know what this says about me, but
so you guys didn't meet on that since you didn't have.
No, we didn't. It was so funny when I first met you. I was like, oh, I was on an episode of Medium. You were like, oh, I'm sorry if I don't. And I was like, we didn't meet. You were like, oh, okay, cool.
I was so tired. You know, you're working 18-hour days, 22 episodes. I'd meet people all the time. I'm like, I hope I didn't fall asleep. I hope I said my lines. I hope I was okay.
I want to go back to the beginning of Gypsy and Dee Dee's story.
I've been fascinated by Munchausen by proxy because it just goes against every instinct, I think, as a mom, you know. But I hadn't heard of the story, so I read the script and I'm like, whoa, what is going on? And I watched the documentary, and then I really was like, oh my god, this story is insane. And I told my kids, I'm thinking about doing this project with this woman who has Munchausen by proxy. They were like, no, don't do it. Don't do it, Mom, don't. I'm like, you guys know I'm not like that. I know it's pretend. Do you know I pretend for a living? They're like, no, and they will never see it. Either one of them. They both said, no, I didn't see it. I'm never going to see it. I never want to see it.
That's
so funny.
I mean, in a way, I understand that. I don't know if I want to either.
What was interesting for me, acting-wise, about this was I always thought it was an interesting thing. What is this? But then doing research about what the experts said about people who have Munchausen by proxy, I just felt like I wasn't getting what I needed as an actor. The way they were talking about it, needing attention, the way that they kind of talked about it. So I had to start looking at emotional underpinnings for my own self. Like, this is toxic codependence. Like, I would rather you be sick and die than ever leave me, you know? I know better than everybody else what you need. It was a lot of layers of like narcissism, fear of abandonment, all these kind of different, I don't know, disorders, I guess, people have, and layering those back in. But it wasn't something that I really got from therapists. You know, as an actor, I really feel like subconscious behavior and therapy and reverse engineering things was really helpful for me on this.
I mean, you've played some dark characters. Does your family ever worry, or do you ever worry about delving into them, or do you keep a pretty healthy distance between the job?
I keep a pretty healthy distance, but there's some parts that just stay with you a tiny bit. Little facial things will come out. You'll be talking to your friend, and you'll be like, make a little face like, oh, get away from me, Tilly. Tilly, go back where you come from. But the depression of Tilly actually stuck with me for a while.
Really?
That is such an underlying kind of insidious thing that I think that, and also the weather where we were shooting and being in prisons and all of that, that was kind of harder to kick. Not the whole thing, just that part.
And where did you even begin with your research in this character? And we just, I can't get over the voice. It's so much like the real Gypsy Rose.
My research was for me. I wanted to get as much information as I could on Munchausen by proxy as well. So I started with reading a lot of articles, but my main source of research was really the documentary that was put out, Mommy Dead and Dearest, because for me, what was frightening about this role that I liked, the idea that was frightening for me, was that people had such a vast amount of footage and images and all these things of the real Gypsy that they could directly compare my performance to. And so that was really something that I wanted to perfect, was not just the voice, and that was a lot of research as well. Like, I feel like I fell asleep with her interviews playing in like noise cancellation headphones. I would like listen to it all night, like the same interviews on repeat, and I would like fall asleep with them in my ears just to like have it kind of just sitting there. And so that was a big part of my research. And another thing was, for me, was watching her and rewinding and going back and just going through every frame I could find of her on the internet, of her body language. She's got such a specific body language, especially around Dee Dee. And most of the footage that we have online is of her with Dee Dee. And she's got this way about her. She just makes herself look like such an infant when she's around her mother. And so it was great for me to be able to see that, but then it also was exciting for me to be able to have a little bit of creative freedom, because we see Gypsy so much by herself in this series, in her room, talking to Nick, doing things in secret, eating candy. And so I wanted to create something unique, but that still felt in tune with what we could see online. Just a different body language when she's by herself versus when she's with Dee Dee. So I wanted that to be different from when she was with Dee Dee, but I also wanted it to still be childlike, but also that by herself body language, I wanted it to age as the series went on, because our series takes place over 7 years.
Right.
And so I wanted the voice and her body language to age with the series. And so that the attention to detail, it came quickly, because I was researching on such a broad level, and then after I felt like I had gained enough knowledge quickly, because we didn't have, by the time I was cast to the time we started shooting, it wasn't that much time to prepare. And so I gathered all that information, then very quickly started going into the minute details, because I wanted it to just, that is what really ties the performance together for me, and what made me feel most fulfilled was getting those small things correctly, because it really makes the world of a difference.
I just have to say that she was so present and real, you know, in every scene and whenever you rolled, and so prepared, and the story is so interesting, because also all the layers in her character of self-deception, deception with her mom, to disarm her mom, to make her feel safe with her. Oh, she's a little girl. She is my little girl. And then how she is with Nick, and then deceiving herself, how that's going to be, and then deceiving him, you know, and then deceiving the police. And there's just so many flips and different things. But she was always really totally committed to this girl's story and being present.
This may sound like a strange question, but because you guys spend so much time together, was there any kind of like an audition with Patricia, or were you cast and then you met?
We were cast separately, and then we met afterwards.
Oh,
I was cast after you.
oh really?
Yeah, which isn't usually the way it is, but they were like, we got the girl. It's Joey King. And I was like, okay, I hope this girl's good. I'm really convinced. Uh-oh.
You know, I was actually
gonna be good. I don't know.
I was so nervous when I met you, because I was like, Jesus Christ, that's Patricia Arquette. And then I just kept thinking to myself, like, I've gotta prove myself to her, because she's going into this. I mean, she's playing such an intense character, and she's going to bring it. And I remember when we started our rehearsal process, I was like, oh my god, like I was nervous to do it in front of the director, sure, but I was like really nervous to do it in front of Patricia.
3 pages and I was like, the kid's great. The kid's got it.
No, but you're so sweet. But no, and just kind of adding on to what you said about being present, I feel like my performance was, I attribute so much of it to you, because when we were in the moment together, so many spontaneous things happened, and no matter how much preparation you do and research you do, there's nothing quite like being on set and being able to play and having such an open and loving scene partner is the most incredible, valuable thing in the world, and you just gave me so much.
Well, I feel the same way, and it's weird, you know. I've been around long enough that I was an ingenue once, you know, and there were chemistry readings, and they'd have you meet with the male lead, and do you have chemistry? And sometimes they'd be like, oh, we want this kid to play you, and they look like a little blonde version of you, kind of, blah, blah, they should be your daughter. But as soon as we met in the room, I'm like, fuck, that girl could be my daughter. Mm-hmm. Like, we have a really weird chemistry where it's like, we have the same dark sense of humor, and we care about acting the same way. And I was just like, wow, this is really intense. Like, I feel like we have this really amazing chemistry that I don't know how you would act. Mm-hmm. You know, it's another level.
Did you feel it pretty instantaneously, or did that sort of, as you got to know each other through the rehearsal process?
I felt it pretty fast in the rehearsal process. We didn't have much rehearsal. Basically, we read the script about 4 times.
That's it.
What, the whole script?
We read 1 through, because we didn't have 8 until very close to shooting 8.
Wow.
So we read 1 through 7 about 4 times through, like you said, and we didn't. It wasn't even rehearsal. It was more just like reading it.
It was reading, and I was like, "Oh my god, are we gonna rehearse?"
Yeah, I know. I remember you and I, like, we had these read-throughs, and then we would like meet up later, and we're like,
like, I've had 9,000 wardrobe fittings.
I know.
Can we have a rehearsal?
So yeah, but it was, for me too, it was pretty instantaneous. And just being like that, even like the read-throughs that weren't really rehearsals at all. It was so special to be able to like sit in a room with you and just read through a script. Just, I mean, as much as I would have loved more rehearsal time, just being able to have that experience of reading through a script with you, I was over the gosh darn moon.
I feel like that too, and I think a lot. I mean, even though we weren't rehearsing, we were reading through it, and the questions that you came up with, you know, you know an actor that cares when they're really digging in deep and they're finding more, and they're asking things, and they're, you know, and willing to experiment and try different things, you know. They're not just too locked in on one choice, you know?
I want to talk about some of the rest of this cast, because this is a really great ensemble from top to bottom. Callum Worthy, who, is, again, did you just meet him on set?
Because yeah, I had, you know what's funny though, is, okay, so we started shooting, the way I met Callum is like my favorite story in the world. We started shooting, we were like episode like 3 deep, so we were like in it, like, you know, hair was gone, voice was up, wardrobe was crazy. Things were happening. And then I flew back to Los Angeles for like a brief moment, for like, there was like I was doing something with my family, and it also happened to be like Halloween weekend. And so I went to a Halloween party, and I was dressed as Voldemort. And it was like an intense, I had like the nose was gone, like I had prosthetics on. It was like a Voldemort costume. I was very set on being someone who was bald, because I was bald. And then so I was at this Halloween party, and I see Callum. I'm unrecognizable, by the way. I see Callum like across the room. I see this like red hair and like someone dressed as like Bob's Burger. And
that's right, it was a Bob's Burger guy.
I ran over to him. And I was like, I know you can't tell who I am, and I am just Voldemort to you right now. But I play Joey. My name is Joey King, and I'm playing Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and da da da. And we had this like whole moment. We're like, oh my god, it's so nice to meet you. And so that was the first time we met, and then we got on set, and it was like so crazy because him and I had 0 rehearsal time.
Wow.
We did not even have a read through. Like, it was nothing. Like, it was just the first day of shooting, and I was like, and I remember the first take. We did a scene that I unfortunately didn't make it into the show, but our first take together, like, it was crazy because it was an emotional scene. And then they yelled cut, and I like looked at him and I was like, I am so happy. You are amazing. He's like, I was gonna say the same thing.
But a few days before, she was like, oh my god, I have to shoot with this guy, and I have to do love scenes with this guy. What is this? What? And I'm like, I know. It's gonna be okay.
Because I didn't know. I was like, I don't know what he's gonna be like. What if he's like? I don't know what he's gonna act like. I was totally like, Patricia, I'm scared.
You know how it is,
But thank God he wound up being like the greatest guy and the greatest actor. I'm just like, I'm so impressed by him.
And some of my favorite scenes are actually the ones between Dee Dee and Chloe Sevigny's character.
I was just felt bad a lot of times when we're shooting this scene. Like, we both know what this scene is, but like, I would say before, like, I'm so sorry we're gonna shoot this scene. I'm so sorry what this lady did to this little girl. I mean, I'm just, you know, I know you have to commit to it and be willing to show how ugly it is and desperate and everything that it is, and hope that, you know, in the long run, maybe doctors will question these things. Like, maybe we'll run another test. Maybe we'll check for ourselves. Maybe we're gonna ask this kid. Maybe we're gonna look at this whole file. But in those moments, I just felt like, yeah, we know between action and cut we're pretending, but there's something in your body that actually is involved, you know? Your emotions, your breathing, your thoughts between action and cut are your character's thoughts. So I felt bad about that.
Another thing, but I felt that because I was so in it when we were on set, I'm not like a method actor necessarily, but my mindset for 5 months was flipping on and off between being Joey and being Gypsy, and being Gypsy was so intense, and being in that mindset with you was so, like, I got so used to being there, and it was such a dark place, and it was some place that I had been going so comfortably for so long, and then I think once it was over, I experienced this like wave of depression when we wrapped shooting, and it was really bizarre, and it stayed with me for a few months after I got home, and I was just like, it was a shock to not be doing it anymore. And I remember, and it was kind of messed up. Like, I was looking forward to my ADR sessions to be able to like go back into that weird mindset, because I had been there for so long, and so like, and just adjusting to real life. And I think what was so shocking was having everyone expect you to just be you again when you're home. And I was like, no, this doesn't feel right. Like, I just committed so much of myself to something, and now I'm home and you weren't there. Like, and how can you expect me to just, you know, sit across a dinner from you and be like, I'm so happy to be home and to see you. Like, it just felt so crazy to me to not be doing it anymore. And I remember after my last ADR session, the voiceover work for episode 8, which is the finale, I got in my car and I just started crying after it was over, because that was my last time being Gypsy ever. And it was such a weird feeling for me to say goodbye to that character, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why it made me so emotionally distraught to put something behind me that was so dark. But I think it just really showed me how much this experience meant to me. And as an actor and as a person, I feel like I grew so much, and I learned so much from Patricia and all the people I worked with. It was just like so intense to say goodbye to it.
I just have to say that one of my favorite things I've seen all
It was the best. Like, you went up there and we were like, oh my God, it's our girl.
I love that. I would remind everyone, if